Next, on current news, we're not there yet. The stay-at-home order for New York City is extended into June. What we need before that could change. And Operation Warp Speed. President Trump reveals his team and lays out the plan for developing a vaccine for COVID-19. Also, from holy water fonts to pews to handrails, teams are scrubbing down churches in Italy before reopening. Plus,
the year's coming to a disappointing end for high school seniors, but one diocese principal is giving her students a sign it's all going to work out. I'm Jessica Easthope, and that's ahead.
You're looking at a desolate Times Square, and the crossroads of the world is going to stay that way. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. New York City will be shut down for at least another month. By contrast, some parts of the state are being set free as soon as today. Much of New York will remain under stay-at-home orders until June 13th. Governor Andrew Cuomo extended restrictions in the state hardest hit by the coronavirus overnight. Earlier, Cuomo said 5 of 10 state regions did meet criteria to begin relaxing social distancing, including a decline in hospitalizations and coronavirus-related deaths.
I would urge local governments to be diligent about the business compliance and about individual compliance. And then if you see a change in those numbers, react immediately.
Binghamton is within one of those regions, and some business owners there are ready to open again.
I think it's going to be a slow start as much as everybody's eager to get out there and do everything. So doing it in phases, I think, is a healthy approach.
The CDC posted step-by-step guidelines to help states reopen safely after most are already or preparing to roll back even more restrictions. Summer camps are allowed to operate in person in Rhode Island beginning June 29th if all goes well. Shoppers can return to Minnesota's Mall of America June 1st, and beaches in New York and at the Jersey Shore will reopen by Memorial Day with limitations.
That's a big step. We take it very seriously, and if we have to pull the brakes, we will do that.
Only state beaches in New York will open. Mayor de Blasio says New York City beaches are just not ready to be opened anytime soon. Operation Warp Speed now has pilots. That's the fast-track drive President Trump is launching to find a COVID-19 vaccine. Camila Bernal has the story as the president picks the leaders of his team.
To make Americans and the rest of the world feel safer amid the coronavirus pandemic,
we're looking for a full vaccine for everyone that wants to get it.
The president introducing members of Operation Warp Speed.
That means big and it means fast.
The goal, develop a proven COVID-19 vaccine safely and quickly.
When I say quickly, we're looking to get it by the end of the year if we can. Maybe before.
The president and his team feel encouraged that out of about 100 vaccine candidates, experts identified 14 promising ones.
These data made me feel even more confident that we will be able to deliver a few 100 million doses of vaccine by the end of 2020.
And from a potentially historic vaccine timeline to a historic vote. Lawmakers consider changing House rules to allow remote voting, something that's never been done in the 231-year history of the House of Representatives. Also on the docket, a sweeping coronavirus aid package. The legislation, which includes another stimulus payment and funding for increased COVID testing, has a price tag of more than $3 trillion. If passed, it would be the largest relief package in U.S. history. But it has an uphill battle to become law. The legislation is not expected to be taken up by the Senate, and the White House threatened to veto the bill. Camila Bernal, Currents News.
The mystery illness that's attacking kids and frightening parents is spreading. The disease is now in at least 17 U.S. states and in Europe. As many as 100 children in the United Kingdom have contracted the rare inflammatory condition. Experts believe it's linked to the coronavirus. And 17 children have showed up at a Paris hospital with symptoms. France has been under a strict month-long lockdown. And stay with us. Dr. Robert TIBALLI will be here to tackle questions about this mystery outbreak, testing, and more in our Ask the Doctor segment that's still ahead in this newscast. Good news tonight, 2 of the biggest archdioceses in America will reopen their churches' doors. At the end of next week, Chicago will permit the sacraments of reconciliation, matrimony, baptism, and funerals. There's a limit of 10 people who can participate. Chicago's Archbishop, Cardinal BLASE CUPICH, is putting safety first.
People do have freedom of religion, the right to worship and so on. And yet it's not an absolute right if the public good and public health is jeopardized as a result.
Volunteers are being trained and churches are being examined to ensure the public's safety. And about 2 hours ago, the churches in the Archdiocese of Baltimore reopened, welcoming Catholics in groups of 10 people or less. Private prayer is being allowed along with the celebration of the same sacraments as in Chicago. Public masses in Baltimore will resume on May 30th. In Rome, a big effort is underway right now to make sure the hundreds of churches in the city are safe for this Monday's reopening. Teams are disinfecting each of the parishes and even the Great Basilica of St. Peter's. Melissa BUTZ has the story from the Eternal City.
Public masses will resume in Italy on Monday, May 18th, after more than 2 months of lockdown. Before that, though, a complete disinfection of every church in Rome is taking place. Cleaners decked out in masks, gloves, and hazmat suits worked alongside soldiers and priests to get parishes sterilized. We are beginning to sanitize inside the 337 parishes in Rome at the request of the Vicariate of Rome. Inside and outside the churches, disinfectant is sprayed as part of the requirements before masses can resume. We have 80 teams, and from them, 9 are working in Rome. All are specialized in environmental remediation. Every surface is sprayed with products made from either chlorine, alcohol, or hydrogen peroxide. Once dry, seats are blocked off with signs to ensure the 3 feet distance required for liturgical celebrations. Our sanitizing and daily cleaning consists of cleaning pews, the altar, and any areas people touch with their hands. The Vatican is also preparing for reopening day, May 18th, cleaning inside the basilica and placing yellow tape where pilgrims should stand before entering St. Peter's. A top priority is to keep senior citizens safe from the coronavirus. The most at-risk group represents a big part of many Italian congregations. A 2018 study in the country showed 2.5 million Italians aged 75 and older attended weekly Mass, making them the largest age group going to church. Hand sanitizer at the door, distancing, masks, and gloves are required for everyone who enters the church. It's the only way that Italy's government agreed with bishops to open churches back up. In Rome, Melissa BUTZ, Currents News.
Here are some more headlines. Retail sales in the U.S. plunged by more than 16% last month. Combined with March, it's a record decline. 40% of parents are telling pollsters they're more likely to homeschool their kids once the pandemic is over. And scientists are using cows treated with human chromosomes to help develop an antibody treatment for the coronavirus. In this time of the coronavirus, the principal of St. Xavier High School in Park Slope is going above and beyond to let her graduating seniors know that she's proud of them and they are appreciated. Currents News' Jessica Easthope shows us what she's doing.
I brought this for you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Most students wouldn't be happy about waking up early on a weekend to find their principal on their front lawn.
Hello.
But the seniors at St. Xavier High School are not just any students.
I miss you too.
And Carol Timpone is not your average principal.
They've done the best that they could do, and now we're starting to give back to them.
Carol and several other teachers from the Catholic high school in Park Slope picked neighborhoods and went door to door to each of the 64 seniors' homes.
Were you surprised?
Yeah.
They delivered these lawn signs with their graduation year, which unfortunately is not ending how they hoped.
I never thought I would say I miss school.
The group of seniors have been awarded more than $16 million in college scholarships. Their Catholic education taking each of them on a different path toward their dreams. Carol said the signs are a thank you to the girls who have spent the last 4 years leading lives of service.
Their service is beyond belief. The amount of service that they do, They give back to the community in any way that they can. This is for you.
Thank you.
For Molly Murtaugh, her service is far from over. She's off to West Point in the fall.
I really liked the strong sense of community, and that's obviously a big thing in St. Xavier. I also saw that in West Point. I think it's a really great opportunity to help my country, and I think that's what I'm meant to do.
The sense of belonging Molly felt at St. Xavier, Carol felt too when she arrived last year on her first day as principal.
I walked in and I said, this is exactly where I belong.
For Carol, the simple gesture is her way of keeping a connection with her girls.
Religion is really all about connection. When we lose that connection, then we lose part of that religious purpose.
She's leading by example with hope.
Well, we'll be together soon.
Yeah.
Okay, stay strong.
And her faith. Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
There's a lot more news headed your way. The doctor is in and he's answering your questions about the coronavirus. Tonight, he's talking about keeping your kids safe. Plus, a top transit official is slamming New York City on how it's handling a major crisis underground. And our Jessica Easthope has an exclusive interview with a train conductor about the conditions MTA employees have to deal with.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/send us, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
It's been weeks and we're still learning new things about the coronavirus. The unknown can cause fear and anxiety. That's why on Fridays, we ask the doctor to get answers to your questions about COVID-19. Dr. Robert TIBALLI from the Catholic Medical Association joins us now. And Dr. TIBALLI, the first thing I want to ask you about is a huge concern for me as a mom and all parents out there. The mystery illness that's spreading among kids, which is related to COVID-19. What can you tell us about this disease and what should parents be looking out for?
Well, it's a lot like something called Kawasaki's disease, which is something that's been around for decades, and people have spent their entire career trying to figure it out. We developed appropriate treatments for it, but we never knew what caused it. And it's important to recognize it in your child. Hallmarks are fever, rash, the spotted tongue like a strawberry, possibly some swelling of the hands and feet. And if your child has anything like that, you'd want to bring it to the attention of your pediatrician right away. We're not sure if there's appropriate therapies for that at this time due to COVID, but there's some things that they can do to prevent complications of it. It's an inflammatory syndrome that's mediated through an autoimmune reaction where the body's immune system actually fights itself. So they can do things to interrupt inflammation. We do have a treatment for Kawasaki, which is basically giving intravenous immune globulin, which is very similar to giving the antibodies through donated supplies. That may be a means by which to treat it, but there's no science behind that yet.
Wow, scary. And you mentioned antibodies. So we're hearing so much about antibody testing. Apparently there are different types of tests. So in your opinion, what is the most accurate test being offered?
Well, there's basically two types of tests, two buckets. One is the test to see whether or not you have it right now. That's, I tell people it's kind of like knowing whether you're pregnant right now. The other test is an antibody test, which tells you if you've had the infection in the past and gotten over it. That's the test that I had. I did not qualify for the nasal swab antibody or nasal swab antigen test. So all these tests that are FDA approved, you'd want to make sure they're FDA approved. Ask your doctor, is it an FDA approved test? If they're FDA approved, they have a very high degree of sensitivity and specificity, which means it's pretty accurate. There's one test now that has a very high degree of false negatives, and that's the early test. That's the one that tells you you have the infection right now. It appears that might be actually withdrawn from FDA approval, but there's many different tests being offered, and some laboratories are changing the methodology of the test even from week to week of which brand that they're offering. So it's really kind of a moving train, as not really clear what's available. It's not static. It's a very dynamic testing environment right now.
Wow. All right. Now, if you do the antibody test and you test positive that you have the antibodies, what exactly does that mean?
Well, with a high degree of certainty, it means that you've had the coronavirus in the past. It does not tell you whether you are currently infectious to other people. We do consider that if someone is without symptoms of fever, sore throat, and so on for more than 72 hours, that they're no longer infectious. But the only way to know for sure if you're not infectious is to do the swab in the nose or the emerging saliva test. If you're going to have an MRI or a surgical procedure, they will be doing the nose and the swab, or the swab in the nose or the saliva test to look for the active virus in your nasopharynx. They won't be doing an antibody test.
Wow, so just because you have the antibodies doesn't mean that you might not be carrying it. Something to remember. Dr. Robert TIBALLI from the Catholic Medical Association, thanks so much for being here again.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be with you.
The doctor is in every Friday to tell you what you need to know about the latest medical developments involving the coronavirus and to answer your questions. So send them to askthedoctor@desalesmedia.org. Again, the email is askthedoctor@desalesmedia.org. The response to the homeless crisis in the city subways is being called an epic failure. A top transit official is blasting Mayor de Blasio, saying the action taken during the coronavirus pandemic by the city is woefully inadequate. The president of the Transit Workers Union says the homelessness crisis is not the fault of the MTA. In fact, it's a failure on the part of New York City and Mayor de Blasio. Initially, the mayor claimed officials were making historic gains in getting vagrants cleared out of the subways. But now he's conceding that is not true. During nightly shutdowns of the system to deep clean stations and trains, the mayor now says only 103 of the over 3,300 homeless in the subways approached by police are living in city shelters. The news comes as no surprise to MTA workers. Long lines of homeless wait each day to get back in when the system opens up at 5 a.m. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has an exclusive interview with a train operator who is calling the overnight closures a Band-Aid.
Jennifer Montano rides the subway every week since the pandemic began. She needs to get to her prenatal appointments.
Today on the Q train, as soon as I walked on, there were literally 4 people laying down sleeping.
Jennifer only has to see this once a week. MTA train operator YANN HICKS sees it every day.
Now it's like every train, every trip, every day.
Last week, city and state leaders made the historic decision to close the subways overnight. The MTA has been disinfecting all trains. YANN, who's been with the MTA for 14 years and operates N and J trains, says he's seen a big improvement in this area.
I'm very proud of the MTA and the management for starting to clean up the trains.
And so have riders.
On the Q today and the R have looked a little bit cleaner.
Subway ride was nice. It was clean.
But YANN says the homeless who have been forced off the trains during the nightly cleanings come back.
Around 5 a.m. that people are all lined up to get back on the train that were kicked off at 1 a.m.
Then he says the conditions within the subway return to unacceptable and unsanitary.
It's disgusting when you're a train operator and you're pulling into a station, you see a pile of defecation here and a pile of defecation there.
YANN says forcing people off is a small fix to a much deeper problem that's plagued New York City for decades.
The city really has to step in and help the people out. People should be living on the trains.
Mayor Bill de Blasio's Thrive NYC has an immense budget to address mental illness in New York City. Critics say the initiative has failed.
We now have found new ways to get street homeless people off the street.
YANN says the people who call the subway home are lacking resources and options and are not getting the help they desperately need.
Right now, it's still a lot of homeless people, people that are mentally ill, people who think they live on the trains. It's very difficult to see this.
The subway will be closed overnight for the foreseeable future. YANN says he's hoping he and his fellow train operators are approached by city and state leaders to help come up with a more permanent solution to homelessness on the subways. In Prospect Heights, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Fortunately, the homeless are getting help from some guardian angels. Despite the stay-at-home order, the group is still on New York streets to make sure the homeless population is staying safe and being fed. Our Emily Drooby joined the angels near Penn Station.
It's an eerie scene. The roads and sidewalks surrounding Penn Station, normally packed with people, now they're silent. Millions of New Yorkers can hide from the deadly coronavirus inside their homes, but the homeless population is exposed outside. So the guardian angels are stepping up.
You always have the water with you.
Not letting COVID-19 stand in the way of helping them in Penn Station and on the subways.
They're forgotten. People pass by them.
Braving the coronavirus to make sure the homeless have food, water.
You're going to wash your hands first.
A way to wash their hands and, most importantly, support.
You know, we're here to give you some food and just know that we're here and we love you.
According to the nonprofit Bowery Mission, nearly 1 in every 125 New Yorkers is homeless. That's out of a city of over 8 million people. The group's founder, SLIWA, says they were inspired to help because the government wasn't doing enough.
The homeless and the emotionally disturbed persons are the last in the chain of humanity, and we're making sure they get cared for.
Curtis is considering a run for mayor. He says if he was in charge, the pandemic would have been treated differently.
You have to show that you're compassionate as the mayor. You have to be out there with the people, and not just the rich people making your contributions.
As the fight against the coronavirus rages on, the group is urging the young and healthy to help.
If you're young and you're able to get involved, get involved.
As the guardian angels say, one person can make a difference. In Midtown Manhattan, Emily Drooby, Currents News.
Still to come on Currents News, this retired cop isn't handing out tickets to these drivers. He's handing out hope. Coming up, we'll show you why people being helped at this mobile food pantry were so surprised. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Finally tonight, a surprise act of kindness for people at a food giveaway. Cars lined up at a mobile food pantry in North Carolina, many of them filled with people who are unemployed for the first time in their lives because of the pandemic. Retired police officer Benson Ratliff was also there, not to receive food, but to give away money.
I just gave away $2,500 to people that are in there.
How'd that feel?
Feels good. You know, when you're blessed, you have to bless other people.
Those who received the money said Ratliff touched their hearts. But it's nothing new for the former cop, who says he also donates to those in need around the holidays. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News Special Edition, anchored by Michelle Powers, will air this weekend, starting Saturday at 1:30 p.m. Several rebroadcasts will follow, including on Sunday. Go to netny.tv for the complete schedule. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.